Hey there, comic friends! I'm Travis. It's time for an edition of Monster Comic Reviews, where I talk about my superhero books for the week. This is for the week of January 7th, 2015. We'll jump right into the books. Not a whole lot this week. Small week. Batman Eternal, issue number 40. Basically, 3 plot lines going on here. Batman finishing scooping up the Riddler. The Riddler wanting nothing to do with Gotham. Will not tell Batman exactly what's going on, but the Riddler seems to know what's going on, who's in charge of this whole, chaos that's happening. But the Riddler wants Batman to figure it out for himself, but does not want to go back to Gotham. Meanwhile, Vicky Vale and the newspaper are getting very, very close to tying together lots of these loose ends of all this manipulation that's been going on in Gotham to create the chaos that's there. Someone shows up at the newspaper, an intern, and starts shooting everybody up. Vicky Vale kind of takes charge and does a little bit of rescuing in her part of it. And then the other aspect of this is this gathering of villains that have been given over to a whole bunch of Batman merchandise. And when I say a gathering of villains, it's the Bane and Scarecrow and Firefly and Clue Master and just a wide range of people. Catwoman. They're all given basically a bunch of kit that used to be Batman's stuff. Catwoman is further cementing that she's going to go on what she's doing in her own title in this, and that she's going to, control the streets of Gotham through the crime families. Offers them to all come along with him, come along with her instead of being crazy supervillains. They attempt to blow her up, which clearly doesn't happen. But that's the part of this whole thing I don't care for. Super awesome villains. One of the great things about about Batman is his rogues gallery is incredible, and these villains are anything but that. They're unimpressive and dumb. In this issue, and the last couple issues really have been disappointing in that aspect of Batman Eternal. They just are less than one-dimensional and really uninteresting, unfortunately. So I like this issue better because it focused less on those villains and some of the other aspects on it's interesting. But it really feels like now this title is really spinning its wheels and nothing's happening. Not even exciting squealing tire sounds coming from the spinning of the wheels, if I'm going to keep that analogy going. Yeah, I'm hoping it turns around here. I'm hoping at some point we're going to start getting some answers and something dynamic happens, because it's going to kind of be unfortunate for me, which is sad. And pretty much cements that I'm not going to get the next version of Batman Eternal when it starts. I just can't. I can't envision what they would provide for me that would make me interested in picking up the next of it, just because of the way this is starting to really flounder. Detective Comics, issue number 38. Continuing with the Francis Manapul and Brian Bucciarella run of the book. The art is pretty gorgeous in it. Of course, it being Manapul's. I love the coloring. Bucciarella's coloring in it. It sets a really good mood. Some interesting stuff happens in here. What Anarchy's doing, basically starts a clean slate with everyone. That's kind of fascinating. That aspect is to see what people do with that. At the end of this, it seemingly looks like, even though we know that, us as readers know it didn't happen, a crowd of people gets the sense that Batman has killed this kid at the end of it. And that storyline feels really used right now with the whole Batman Eternal, Gordon, supposedly killing somebody and being accused of it and whatnot. I'm not I'm not interested in that, I guess. It feels to me like that plot's been beat to death enough times here very recently. Not to say you can't re-explore it at some point, but right now it seems way too soon to be kind of exploring that kind of a plot. So that aspect of it is kind of, but I like the way it looks, and I'll keep picking up Detective Comics, even though there's nothing special about this issue whatsoever. I just like Detective Comics. Swamp Thing issue 38. Only got 2 more issues now after this one. Huge battle happens in this one. The Queen of Machines, along with the help of the Gray and Arcanum, however the heck you say his name, they all team up together to go after Swamp Thing and Abigail, and cause all kinds of grief and get them stretched thin and unconcentrated, and they basically create a super monster out of Alec Holland's old body, what's left of his bones and stuff. They make this, super Swamp Thing fungus machine monster dude that basically is kicking the holy hell out of Swamp Thing by the end of this. While Abigail is in the Antarctic trying to take down the machine's home base, and potentially going to fail miserably because she got abandoned by Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing was trying to deal with his home and what was happening there. Some of our bad guys have infiltrated back into the green and into the sleeping parliament of trees, and it'll be exciting to see what happens as we roll into what's we all know now is going to be the finish of Swamp Thing, at least going into Convergence. Excited to see how it ties up and where it all lands at the very end of it. Some fun stuff. And finally, Wolverines issue number 1. I am venturing into Marvel's weekly book. I always hear good things about Charles Soule. The stuff I've read Charles Soule, I enjoy. Swamp Thing, Letter 44, and all that sort of stuff. I did not pick up any of the books leading into this. The Weapon X program or Wolverine Legacy or any of that stuff. My understanding is all that kind of ties into this book. I've heard good things about those books written by Charles Soule. So I thought, what the heck? We'll give Marvel a shot at selling me a weekly book. One thing, of course, to take note of: this weekly book is $3.99 versus DC's weekly books, which are $2.99. So yeah, I haven't read any of those things, so I don't really know the story other than what I've heard. Like Mike, Sergeant America, who's on the round table with me, and a comic book mom, Audrey, who's First Family of Comics now. Those are people I heard talk about the stories going into this to give me some sense of what's going on. So in this first issue, we have the Weapon X program people. I'm assuming have gathered up some of the other what would be considered relations of Wolverine. Doc and X-23, Lady Deathstrike, Mystique, Sabretooth, have basically have them under some sort of control, like they got bombs planted in them, or I'm not sure exactly what. And it's forced them to go down into the old Weapon X program place, and they are looking for something. And we find out from this issue that they are looking for Wolverine's body, or what's left of it, this slagged Wolverine and anaantium. I'm assuming for the anaantium because it's worth something, or in the case of this group of heroes is, like for Dakin anyway, he means something. It's his dad. So I'm not sure 100% why they're wanting to acquire it, but yeah, they're working on doing that. And the Wrecking Crew, which is awesome. I mean, I don't know. Do people still use the Wrecking Crew? I remember them back from the Secret Wars era. Are in this, and they've been hired to acquire the same thing for whatever its value it is in this. There is, at the end of this, surprise bad guy shows up. Sinister shows up at the end of this. I'm not 100% really familiar with the character Sinister, so I'm going to do some internet searching to learn more about him. And he just wrecks some of these people, and we find out that I don't know if we knew beforehand, before anybody knew before this that that Daken is just like Wolverine in that he's lost his healing ability. He doesn't have healing powers anymore. And Sinister seemingly wants some DNA samples from him because that's the closest he's going to get to samples of Wolverine. And the DNA samples he takes isn't just a nice little, swab in the mouth kind of a thing. It's a pretty radical sample that he takes. So curious to see what's going to happen. I believe I have either pre-ordered 2 months worth or 3 months worth of this book. I need to check. I'm going to wait until this week's books come out. I'm going to read this week's books also before I order my next month's worth of comics to decide whether or not I really want to keep this on my list or not, because it is a spendy thing. I don't know how about this first issue was somewhat entertaining and interesting. I'm curious to see where it's going to go from here. So I'm hoping that can get satisfied one way or the other, give me a sense of where the book's going to go in the next issue, so I don't end up getting 4 more issues of it that I really don't want by the time I decide I don't want it, if that's the case. The price, whereas normally a $3.99 book I don't really bat an eye necessarily at it, but when we're talking 4 of them a month, all on the same subject, all about the same thing, a bit still kind of uneasy about the whole thing. So we'll see how that plays out. But relatively interesting so far. So that's it. I only have 4 superhero books, and you know what? I think this coming next week when I talk superhero books again, it's only going to be 3 or 4. My superhero pile is dwindling, it looks like. Be curious as we roll into the rest of this year how many more superhero books I'm going to be picking up or not. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later on. Bye.